Chapter 1. The surprise. Sean Adams had exactly 3 things on his mind that Tuesday evening. Finish the quarterly report, microwave something vaguely edible, and collapse on his couch like a man who just survived a war. The city outside his apartment windows glittered with Christmas lights, but Sean barely noticed. Holidays were for people with free time, and he hadn't had that luxury since ever. He dropped his laptop bag by the door, loosened his tie, and muttered, 12 days until Christmas. Great. Another year of mom asking why I'm single. As if summoned by the thought, his phone buzzed. Mom. Sean stared at the screen, debating whether he had the emotional stamina for this conversation. Before he could decide, a knock sounded at his door. He frowned. Nobody knocked on his door. Delivery guys rang the bell. Neighbors texted first. This was weird. Sean opened the door and forgot how breathing worked. Kelly Benton stood there, framed by the hallway light like some kind of holiday miracle. Same chestnut hair, same smile that had once made teenage Sean forget his own name. She was holding a suitcase in one hand and a note in the other. Hi, Sean, she said, as if this were perfectly normal. Merry early Christmas. Sean blinked. Kelly, in the flesh. She handed him the note, breezed past him like she owned the place, and disappeared down the hall toward the guest room. Sean stared after her, still holding the note like it might explode. Okay, he said to no one in particular. The note was in his mother's handwriting. That loopy, cheerful script he'd seen on every birthday card since he was 5. Sean, you know I love you and this year's special. My baby boy is 30 years old. Your father and I put a lot of consideration into your present this year, and we're certain you're going to love it. Kelly will be staying with you until you get your present. You have until Christmas to figure it out, and you get 1 clue a day. Kelly has the clues, but don't ask her. She doesn't know what the present is either. Love, Mom. Sean read it twice, then a third time because surely he was hallucinating from exhaustion. Kelly reappeared in the doorway, now without her coat. Guest room's nice, she said. Better than my hotel would have been. Sean found his voice. What is happening? She grinned. Your mom called me last week, said you needed some holiday cheer. And well, she shrugged. I had vacation days. Figured, why not? Sean opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. So you're staying here? Until Christmas, Kelly said cheerfully. 12 days. Don't worry, I'm low maintenance. Low maintenance, right? Sean's brain was still rebooting. And the clues. Kelly held up her hands. Don't look at me. I just deliver them. 1 a day, starting tomorrow. Sean stared at her, then at the note, then back at her. My mom sent you as a present? Kelly laughed, and the sound hit him like a warm gust of nostalgia. Guess so. You always were her favorite. Sean groaned. This is insane. Insane can be fun, Kelly said, dropping onto his couch like she'd lived there for years. So, what's for dinner? Sean blinked again. Dinner. Yeah. She kicked off her boots. I'm starving. Sean looked at the microwave, then at Kelly, then at the universe in general. His life had officially taken a turn into crazy town and stopped for a milkshake. Chapter 2. Old memories, new awkwardness. Sean woke to the smell of coffee and the faint sound of humming. For a moment, he thought he dreamed the whole thing. The suitcase, the note, Kelly breezing past him like a rom-com heroine. But then he sat up and saw the guest room door across the hall, slightly ajar, and heard the unmistakable clink of mugs. He ran a hand through his hair, muttering, okay, not a dream, definitely real. Sean pulled on a t-shirt and joggers, trying to look casual and failing spectacularly. He stepped into the open kitchen and froze. Kelly was there, barefoot, wearing an oversized sweater that looked like it had been stolen from a Christmas catalog. She was pouring coffee into 2 mugs, her hair pulled into a messy bun that somehow made her look even more effortlessly perfect. Morning, she said, flashing that smile. The one that had once made teenage Sean forget how words worked. Hope you don't mind. I found your coffee stash. Sean cleared his throat. No, that's fine. Coffee's fair game. She slid a mug toward him. Cream and sugar? Black, he said, taking the mug like it was a lifeline. Thanks. Kelly leaned against the counter, sipping her own coffee. So, day 1 of 12. You ready? Sean blinked. Ready for what? She grinned. The first clue, right? The clues. The mysterious present his parents had cooked up like some holiday-themed escape room. Sean set his mug down, bracing himself. Okay, hit me. Kelly reached into the pocket of her sweater and pulled out a folded slip of paper. She handed it to him with a flourish. Clue number 1. Sean unfolded it. The handwriting was his mom's again, cheerful and looping. On the first day of Christmas, think of what lasts longer than a season. Sean stared at it. What does that even mean? Kelly shrugged. You're asking the wrong person. I'm just the messenger. Longer than a season, Sean repeated, rubbing his jaw. Could be something permanent? A piece of furniture? A subscription. Kelly laughed. Wow, you really know how to dream big. Sean shot her a look. You got a better guess? She held up her hands. Nope. I'm just here for the coffee and the entertainment. Sean groaned, dropping the paper on the counter. This is ridiculous. Kelly tilted her head. Come on, it's kind of fun. Like a game. Games have rules, Sean said. This is chaos. Chaos can be fun, Kelly said, echoing her words from last night. She took another sip of coffee, then glanced around the apartment. Nice place, by the way. Very minimalist. Sean looked at his open floor plan. Gray couch, black coffee table, big screen TV, and not much else. That's a polite way of saying it looks like a furniture showroom. Kelly smiled. I was going to say bachelor pad. But showroom works too. Sean smirked. Well, I've been busy. I know, Kelly said softly. Your mom told me. Said you work too much. Sean rolled his eyes. She tells everyone that. Kelly chuckled. She also said you never take vacations. Vacations are for people who don't have quarterly reports, Sean said, deadpan. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt something loosen in his chest. It was easy talking to her. Easier than he expected after all these years. So, Kelly said, hopping onto the counter like she used to do on his parents' porch when they were kids. What's the plan today? Sean blinked. Plan? Yeah, 12 days of Christmas. Remember? You can't just sit here and work all day. Sean hesitated. I was going to work from home. Kelly gave him a look that could melt steel. Sean Adams, if you think I'm spending 12 days watching you type emails, you're out of your mind. Sean sighed. Fine. What do you suggest? Kelly grinned. Breakfast. Somewhere with pancakes. Sean stared at her. You want to go out? Unless you've got pancake mix hidden in that minimalist kitchen. Sean glanced at his cabinets. I have cereal. Kelly hopped down from the counter. Pancakes it is. 20 minutes later, they were walking down a city street dusted with snow. Kelly chatting about the Christmas lights while Sean tried to remember how to act like a normal human. He kept sneaking glances at her, at the way her breath puffed in the cold, at the way her eyes lit up when she passed a decorated shop window. So, Kelly said as they waited at a crosswalk, remember that time you tried to build a snow fort in your backyard? Sean groaned. You mean the one that collapsed on me? Kelly laughed. You were so determined. I think you used like a garden hose to freeze the walls. I was an innovator, Sean said, grinning despite himself. Just not a successful one. Kelly nudged him with her elbow. You were cute. Sean felt heat creep up his neck. Was? Kelly smirked. Still are. Just taller. Sean opened his mouth, then closed it because what was he supposed to say to that? Thanks? You too? He settled for a non-committal. Ha! Kelly laughed again, and Sean decided he liked that sound more than he should. The diner was warm and smelled like syrup and coffee. They slid into a booth and Kelly ordered pancakes with strawberries while Sean stuck to eggs and toast. So, Kelly said, stirring her coffee, what do you think the clue means? Sean shrugged. Something that lasts longer than a season. Could be a plant? A tree? Kelly raised an eyebrow. Your mom's going to send you a tree? Sean smirked. Wouldn't be the weirdest thing she's done. Kelly laughed. True. Sean leaned back, studying her. You really had no idea what this was about? Kelly shook her head. She just said you needed company and that it would be fun. And honestly, she smiled. She was right. Sean felt something shift in his chest, something warm and dangerous. He looked away, focusing on his coffee like it held the secrets of the universe. By the time they walked back to the apartment, the snow had started falling harder, blanketing the streets in white. Kelly slipped her arm through his without asking, and Sean's brain short-circuited for a solid 30 seconds. When they reached his door, Kelly grinned. Day 1. Complete. Tomorrow, clue number 2. Sean unlocked the door, trying to ignore the way his pulse was doing gymnastics. Great. Can't wait. Kelly laughed, breezing past him into the apartment. You'll survive, Adams. Sean watched her disappear down the hall, the sound of her laughter lingering like music. He closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. 12 days. He could survive 12 days. Probably. Chapter 3. The gym encounter. Sean had a plan for the morning. Hit the gym, clear his head, and pretend his life hadn't turned into a holiday-themed sitcom. He pulled on his workout gear, grabbed his water bottle, and stepped into the hallway, only to find Kelly leaning against the wall in leggings and a zip-up hoodie, tying her sneakers. Sean stopped dead. You're going to the gym? Kelly looked up, grinning. Yep. Thought I'd join you. Sean blinked. You don't have to. Kelly shrugged. I want to. Besides, you think I'm going to sit in your apartment all day while you work? Not happening. Sean opened his mouth to argue, then shut it. He wasn't sure if he was more nervous about Kelly seeing him sweat or about the fact that she looked like every fitness influencer he'd ever scrolled past on Instagram. Okay, he said finally. Let's go. The apartment gym was bright and modern, with rows of machines and a wall of mirrors that Sean suddenly hated. He headed for the treadmill, hoping to keep things simple. Kelly, of course, followed him like a cheerful shadow. So, she said, hopping onto the treadmill next to his. What's the second clue? Sean groaned. Already. Kelly grinned. Rules are rules. She pulled a folded slip of paper from her hoodie pocket and handed it over. Sean opened it, bracing himself for more cryptic nonsense. On the second day of Christmas, think of what moves but stays. Sean stared at it. What does that even mean? Kelly laughed. You're asking me again? Sean shook his head. Moves but stays, like a clock? Or a rocking chair? Kelly smirked. Or maybe it's a metaphor. Sean shot her a look. For what? She shrugged. No idea. But it sounds deep. Sean groaned, tossing the paper onto the console. This is torture. Kelly laughed, starting her treadmill. You're just mad because you're bad at riddles. Sean muttered something under his breath and cranked up his speed. He wasn't about to lose at cardio and riddles in the same morning. 10 minutes later, Sean was regretting every life choice that led him here. He was sweating like he'd run a marathon, while Kelly looked like she just stepped out of a yoga ad, calm, glowing, barely winded. You okay over there? She teased, glancing at his treadmill. Sean huffed. Fine. Kelly grinned. You always were competitive. Sean shot her a look. You always were annoying. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt his pulse spike for reasons that had nothing to do with cardio. After the treadmills, Kelly wandered toward the free weights. Sean followed, mostly because he didn't trust her not to injure herself or him in the process. You lift? He asked, watching her pick up a dumbbell. Kelly smirked. I dabble. Sean raised an eyebrow. Dabble? Kelly curled the weight with perfect form. See? Dabbling. Sean stared. That's not dabbling. That's professional. Kelly grinned. What can I say? I like staying in shape. Sean muttered, clearly, and grabbed a weight, determined not to look like a total amateur. Of course, that's when disaster struck. Sean was mid-rep when Kelly said something funny. He didn't even remember what, and he laughed, lost his grip, and the dumbbell thudded to the floor with a sound that made everyone in the gym turn. Sean froze. Kelly bit her lip, trying not to laugh. You okay? Sean nodded, cheeks burning. Fine. Kelly grinned. Sure you are. Sean groaned. This is why I work out alone. Kelly laughed, and Sean decided humiliation was worth it just to hear that sound again. They left the gym an hour later, Sean sore and Kelly annoyingly fresh. As they walked back to the apartment, snowflakes drifted down like confetti. So, Kelly said, slipping her hands into her pockets. Any guesses on the clue? Sean shook his head. Moves but stays. Maybe it's a clock. Or a calendar. Kelly smiled. Or maybe it's something about you. Sean frowned. Me? Kelly shrugged. You move a lot, work, deadlines, but you stay the same. Still Sean. Sean stared at her, thrown by the softness in her voice. For a second, the world felt quieter, like the snow had muffled everything but her words. Then Kelly grinned. Or it's a rocking chair. Who knows? Sean laughed, shaking his head. You're impossible. Kelly winked. You'll figure it out. Back at the apartment, Sean collapsed on the couch while Kelly disappeared into the kitchen, humming again. He closed his eyes, trying to ignore the way his chest felt lighter and heavier at the same time. 2 clues down. 10 to go. And if this kept up, Sean wasn't sure if the present would be the biggest surprise, or his own heart. Chapter 4. Deck the halls? Sean had planned to spend the afternoon catching up on work. He even opened his laptop, stared at the glowing screen, and tried to convince himself that spreadsheets were more important than whatever this was turning into. Then Kelly appeared in the doorway holding a box of Christmas decorations like a game show prize. Surprise, she said, grinning. We're decking the halls. Sean blinked. Where did you even get that? Your storage closet, Kelly said, breezing in like she owned the place. You had a sad little box labeled holiday stuff. I figured it was a cry for help. Sean groaned. Kelly. Nope, she said, cutting him off. You're not spending December in a sterile apartment. We're making this place festive. Sean stared at her, then at the box, then at his laptop. He sighed. Fine. But if I miss a deadline, you won't, Kelly said, already pulling out a string of lights. Come on, Scrooge. Help me. 10 minutes later, Sean was standing on a chair, trying to hang lights along the curtain rod while Kelly directed him like a bossy interior designer. Higher, she said. No, tilt it. You want symmetry. Sean muttered. Pretty sure symmetry isn't a Christmas requirement. Kelly smirked. It is in my world. Sean shot her a look. Your world sounds exhausting. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt that now familiar tug in his chest. He adjusted the lights, pretending he wasn't enjoying this more than he should. When the lights were up, Kelly moved on to ornaments. She held up a glittery snowflake. Remember these? Sean frowned. From your mom's tree? Kelly nodded. She gave me a box when I moved out. Thought I'd share. Sean took the ornament, turning it over in his hand. You kept these all these years? Kelly shrugged. Some things are worth keeping. Sean looked at her, and for a second, the room felt smaller, warmer. He cleared his throat and hung the snowflake on the tree Kelly had somehow convinced him to buy from the lobby display. Half an hour later, the apartment looked different, softer, warmer, like someone had injected Christmas spirit straight into the walls. Sean stood back, taking it in. Not bad, he admitted. Kelly grinned. Not bad? This is a masterpiece. Sean smirked. You're very proud of yourself. Kelly winked. Always. Sean chuckled, then noticed her pulling something from her pocket. A folded slip of paper. Clue time. Kelly nodded, handing it over. Day 3. Sean unfolded it, bracing himself. On the 3rd day of Christmas, think of what shines without fire. Sean stared. What? Kelly laughed. You're getting good at that face. Sean groaned. Shines without fire. Like a light bulb? Kelly tilted her head. Or a star. Sean frowned. Stars burn. Kelly grinned. Look at you, Mr. Science. Sean shook his head, dropping the paper on the coffee table. This is impossible. Kelly smirked. You'll figure it out. Sean muttered, doubt it, and reached for his coffee. They spent the rest of the afternoon rearranging furniture to make room for the tree. At one point, Sean tried to move the couch alone and nearly pulled a muscle. Kelly laughed so hard she had to sit down. You okay, Hercules? She teased. Sean groaned. Fine. Kelly grinned. You always were stubborn. Sean shot her a look. You always were bossy. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt that dangerous warmth again, the one that made him forget deadlines and riddles and everything else. By evening, the apartment was glowing with lights, the tree standing proud in the corner. Kelly flopped onto the couch, looking satisfied. Perfect. Sean sat beside her, trying not to notice how close she was. It's nice. Kelly smiled. See? Christmas isn't so bad. Sean smirked. Don't get used to it. Kelly laughed softly, and Sean decided he liked that sound more than any Christmas carol. As the snow fell outside, Sean realized something. His apartment didn't feel empty anymore. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't either. Chapter 5. A snowy detour. Sean had one goal for the day: groceries. His fridge looked like a minimalist art exhibit. Half a carton of eggs, a bottle of hot sauce, and something that might have been lettuce in a past life. He grabbed his keys, ready to make a quick run, when Kelly appeared in the doorway like a plot twist. Where are you going? She asked, pulling on a scarf. Store, Sean said. We need food. Kelly grinned. Perfect. I'll come. Sean hesitated. You don't have to. Kelly tilted her head. You really think I'm letting you pick out 12 days worth of meals alone? You'd come back with cereal and frozen pizza. Sean opened his mouth to argue, then shut it. She wasn't wrong. Fine, he said. But no cart races. Kelly smirked. No promises. The city was blanketed in fresh snow, the kind that made everything look like a postcard. Sean drove slowly, the wipers swishing as Kelly hummed along to the Christmas station he hadn't realized was on. You always hated this song, she teased when Jingle Bell Rock came on. Sean groaned. Still do. Kelly laughed. You're such a Grinch. Sean smirked. And you're whatever the opposite of that is. Kelly grinned. A Christmas elf? Sean chuckled. Fits. The store was packed with holiday shoppers, carts overflowing with turkeys and tinsel. Sean grabbed a cart and headed for the produce section, Kelly trailing behind like a cheerful shadow. So, she said, tossing apples into the cart. What's today's clue? Sean sighed. Already. Kelly grinned. Rules are rules. She pulled a folded slip of paper from her coat pocket and handed it over. Sean opened it, bracing himself. On the 5th day of Christmas, think of what feels like home. Sean stared. Feels like home. Kelly shrugged. Sounds cozy. Sean frowned. Could be furniture? A blanket. Kelly smiled. Or maybe it's not a thing. Sean shot her a look. What else would it be? Kelly tilted her head. A feeling. A person. Sean froze for half a second before forcing a laugh. That's a vague. Kelly grinned. That's the point. Sean groaned, tossing the paper into his pocket. I hate this game. Kelly laughed. You love it. Sean muttered. Do not. And reached for a loaf of bread. By the time they left the store, the snow had turned into fat, lazy flakes drifting down like confetti. Sean loaded the bags into the trunk, then noticed Kelly standing in the parking lot, arms outstretched, catching snowflakes like a kid. You're going to freeze, he called. Kelly grinned. Worth it. Sean shook his head, smiling despite himself. He walked over, brushing snow from her hair. You're ridiculous. Kelly looked up at him, eyes bright. You used to love snow. Sean shrugged. I used to have time for it. Kelly's smile softened. Maybe you should make time. Sean stared at her, the snow falling around them like a silent soundtrack. For a second, he wanted to say something real. But then Kelly scooped up a handful of snow and lobbed it at his chest. Sean blinked. Did you just? Kelly grinned. Snowball fight. Sean groaned. We're in a parking lot. Kelly smirked. Scared. Sean narrowed his eyes. You're on. 5 minutes later, Sean was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Kelly was fast, darting behind cars, popping up like a mischievous elf. Sean managed to land a hit, and she shrieked, pelting him back twice as hard. By the time they called a truce, they were both soaked and breathless, cheeks flushed from cold and laughter. Sean couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this light. Kelly grinned, brushing snow from her coat. Admit it. You had fun. Sean smirked. Maybe. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt that dangerous warmth again. The one that had nothing to do with the car heater. Back at the apartment, they unloaded groceries and made hot chocolate. Kelly perched on the counter, sipping hers with a satisfied sigh. Feels like home, she said softly, almost to herself. Sean looked at her, the words echoing in his head. He didn't say anything, just watched her smile, and wondered if his mom's clue wasn't about a blanket or a chair at all. Chapter 6. Dinner Disaster. Sean had never claimed to be a chef. His culinary skills peaked at scrambled eggs and anything that came with microwave instructions. But tonight, he was determined to make a real dinner, something that said, I'm a functioning adult, not I live on takeout and regret. Kelly was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone, when Sean announced his plan. I'm cooking, he said, trying to sound confident. Kelly looked up, eyebrows raised. Cooking? Like, actual food? Sean smirked. Yes, actual food. Kelly grinned. This I have to see. Sean ignored her tone and headed for the kitchen. He'd bought chicken, vegetables, and pasta. How hard could it be? He pulled up a recipe on his tablet and started chopping like a man on a mission. 10 minutes later, the kitchen looked like a crime scene. There was flour on the counter, a pot boiling over, and Sean muttering curses under his breath as he tried to salvage the sauce that had somehow turned into glue. Kelly wandered in, leaning against the doorway with a grin that could power a small city. Need help? Sean shot her a look. I've got this. Kelly smirked. Sure you do. Sean tried to drain the pasta, but the colander slipped, and half the noodles went down the sink. He froze, staring at the carnage. Kelly burst out laughing. Oh my God, Sean. Sean groaned. Don't say it. Kelly grinned. You're hopeless. Sean muttered. I was going for rustic. Kelly laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes. Rustic? This is apocalyptic. Sean sighed, tossing the ruined pasta in the trash. Fine. What's your plan, Chef Benton? Kelly rolled up her sleeves. Step aside. Watching Kelly take over was like watching a magician. She moved with easy confidence, chopping, stirring, tasting, while Sean stood there, feeling both impressed and mildly humiliated. You've done this before, he said. Kelly smirked. Unlike some people, I learned how to cook after college. Sean grinned. I was busy working. Kelly shot him a look. You were busy avoiding anything domestic. Sean chuckled. Guilty. Half an hour later, they were sitting at the table with plates of perfectly cooked chicken and pasta. Sean took a bite and groaned. Okay. This is amazing. Kelly grinned. You're welcome. Sean raised his glass. To saving dinner. Kelly clinked her glass against his. And saving you from starvation. Sean laughed, and for a moment, everything felt easy, like they'd done this 100 times before. After dinner, Kelly pulled out the day's clue, handing it over with a flourish. Ready. Sean groaned. Hit me. He unfolded the slip of paper. On the 6th day of Christmas, think of what beats without sound. Sean frowned. Beats without sound? Kelly tilted her head. Sounds poetic. Sean muttered. Sounds confusing. Kelly smiled. What do you think? Sean rubbed his jaw. A heart. Kelly's smile softened. Could be. Sean stared at the paper, the words echoing in his head. Beats without sound. He looked at Kelly, laughing as she stacked plates, and felt something shift, something he wasn't ready to name. Later, as they cleaned up, Kelly hummed a Christmas tune, and Sean found himself watching her more than the dishes. He didn't know what his parents' present was, but he was starting to suspect it wasn't something you could wrap. Chapter 7. The party. Sean wasn't a party guy. His idea of a good time was a quiet night with Netflix and maybe a pizza if he was feeling wild. But Kelly had other plans. It's the building holiday party, she said, standing in the doorway with her coat draped over one arm. Everyone's going. We should too. Sean groaned. Define should. Kelly grinned. As in, you're coming with me. Sean opened his mouth to argue, then shut it. He'd learned something over the past week. Kelly was a force of nature. Resistance was futile. Fine, he said. But if there's karaoke, I'm leaving. Kelly smirked. Noted. The party was in the building's lounge. A warm, glittering space filled with twinkling lights, a massive tree, and enough food to feed a small army. People mingled, laughing over glasses of wine, while a playlist of Christmas classics hummed in the background. Sean scanned the room, feeling vaguely out of place. He wasn't antisocial exactly, he just didn't do small talk well. Kelly, on the other hand, was in her element. Within 5 minutes, she was chatting with a group near the fireplace, her laughter ringing out like music. Sean hovered by the snack table, nursing a drink and pretending to be fascinated by the cheese platter. He told himself he was fine, comfortable, even, but then he saw Kelly laughing at something a guy said, and his stomach did a weird flip. Jealousy. That was new. He tried to shake it off, focusing on the clue Kelly had handed him earlier in the elevator. On the 7th day of Christmas, think of what you choose when nothing is certain. Sean frowned at the words, turning them over in his head. What you choose when nothing is certain. A decision? A risk? His mom was starting to sound like a fortune cookie. He glanced at Kelly again. She was smiling, her hand brushing the guy's arm as she laughed. Sean's jaw tightened before he could stop it. Kelly eventually made her way back to him, cheeks flushed from laughter. Having fun? Sean shrugged. Sure. Kelly smirked. You look like you're plotting an escape. Sean grinned. Maybe. Kelly laughed, then nudged him toward the group she'd been talking to. Come on. Be social. Sean hesitated, then followed because saying no to Kelly was apparently impossible. The guy she'd been talking to introduced himself as Mark. Tall, charming, the kind of guy who probably had a golden retriever and a subscription to GQ. Sean shook his hand, forcing a polite smile. So, Mark said, turning to Kelly, you live here too? Kelly nodded. Just visiting, actually. Mark smiled. Lucky building. Sean felt his jaw tighten again. He told himself it was stupid. Kelly could talk to whoever she wanted. But when Mark offered to get her a drink, Sean stepped in before he could think. She's good, Sean said quickly. We're fine. Kelly shot him a look, amused, curious, but didn't comment. Mark smiled politely and drifted away, leaving Sean feeling both victorious and ridiculous. Wow, Kelly said, arching an eyebrow. Possessive much? Sean groaned. I wasn't, Kelly grinned. Relax, Adams. It's cute. Sean stared at her. Cute. Kelly winked. A little. Sean opened his mouth, then closed it because what was he supposed to say to that? He settled for sipping his drink and pretending his pulse wasn't doing gymnastics. They left the party an hour later, the snow falling in soft, lazy flakes. Kelly slipped her arm through his as they walked back to the apartment. See? She said. That wasn't so bad. Sean smirked. Speak for yourself. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt that dangerous warmth again. The one that had been growing since the day she showed up with a suitcase and a smile. Back inside, Kelly kicked off her boots and flopped onto the couch. So, she said, any guesses on the clue? Sean pulled the slip from his pocket, reading it again. What you choose when nothing is certain. He looked at Kelly, her hair falling loose around her shoulders, her smile soft and easy. Maybe, he said quietly, it's about taking a chance. Kelly tilted her head. Sounds like a good guess. Sean nodded, his heart thudding in his chest. For the first time, he wondered if the present wasn't something his parents bought, but something they'd orchestrated. And if that was true, he wasn't sure whether to thank them or panic. Chapter 8. Confessions in the cold. Sean wasn't sure how Kelly convinced him to go for a walk at night in 20-degree weather. But here he was, hands shoved in his coat pockets, breath puffing out in clouds, snow crunching under his boots. The city was glowing with Christmas lights, every tree wrapped in twinkling strands, every shop window dressed like a holiday postcard. Kelly walked beside him, scarf tucked under her chin, cheeks pink from the cold. See? She said, gesturing at the lights. Worth it. Sean smirked. Debatable. Kelly laughed, and Sean felt that now familiar tug in his chest, the one that had been growing stronger every day. He told himself it was nostalgia, nothing more. But nostalgia didn't make his pulse race when she smiled at him like that. They stopped at a small park, the fountain frozen into a sculpture of ice. Kelly leaned against the railing, looking up at the string lights overhead. Remember when we used to come here? She asked softly. Sean nodded. After school. You'd always get hot chocolate. Kelly smiled. And you'd always complain about the price. Sean chuckled. I was fiscally responsible. Kelly grinned. You were cheap. Sean laughed, shaking his head. Still am. Kelly's smile softened. Some things don't change. Sean looked at her, the words echoing in his head. Some things don't change. Like the way he felt when she laughed. Like the way she made everything brighter just by being there. Kelly pulled a folded slip of paper from her pocket and handed it to him. Clue time. Sean groaned. You live for this. Kelly smirked. Obviously. He unfolded the paper, reading the neat handwriting. On the 8th day of Christmas. Think of what builds a future. Sean stared at it. Builds a future. Kelly tilted her head. Sounds big. Sean rubbed his jaw. Could be a house? A career? Kelly smiled. Or maybe it's something less material. Sean frowned. Like what? Kelly shrugged. Love. Trust. Choices. Sean froze, the word love hanging in the air like a spark. He looked at her, at the way her breath curled in the cold, at the way her eyes caught the glow of the lights. For a second, he wanted to say something. Something real. But the words stuck in his throat. They walked in silence for a while, the snow falling softly around them. Sean's mind was a storm. Clues, feelings, questions he wasn't ready to answer. He'd spent years avoiding complications, keeping his life neat and predictable. And now Kelly was here, turning everything upside down with a smile. Finally, Kelly broke the silence. You've changed, she said quietly. Sean glanced at her. How? Kelly smiled faintly. You're calmer, more confident. But still you. Sean swallowed hard. And you're You're still out of my league. Kelly laughed, the sound warm against the cold night. You always thought that. Sean shrugged. Still do. Kelly stopped walking, turning to face him. Her eyes were bright, her cheeks flushed, and for a moment, Sean forgot how breathing worked. Maybe, she said softly. You're wrong. Sean stared at her, heart pounding. He wanted to ask what she meant, wanted to close the space between them, wanted God, he wanted everything. But then Kelly smiled, light and easy, and started walking again, leaving Sean standing there with his pulse in his ears. By the time they got back to the apartment, Sean felt like he'd run a marathon without moving. Kelly kicked off her boots, humming a Christmas tune, while Sean stood by the door, trying to remember how to function. 8 clues down, 4 to go. And if the present was what he was starting to think it was, he wasn't sure if he was ready, or if he'd ever been more ready for anything in his life. Chapter 9. The almost kiss. Sean had never been more aware of the silence in his apartment. It wasn't awkward, at least not exactly. It was the kind of quiet that hummed with something unspoken, something that made his pulse race every time Kelly moved. She was curled up on the couch, blanket draped over her legs, scrolling through the streaming menu. Movie night, she announced. Non-negotiable. Sean smirked. You're very bossy. Kelly grinned. You love it. Sean opened his mouth to argue, then shut it because she wasn't wrong. He settled beside her, careful to keep a respectable distance, though the couch suddenly felt way too small. Kelly picked a Christmas rom-com because of course she did. Sean groaned. Seriously. Kelly shot him a look. It's tradition. Sean muttered. For who? Kelly grinned. For everyone with a soul. Sean chuckled, shaking his head. Fine. Half an hour later, Sean wasn't paying attention to the movie. He was paying attention to Kelly. The way her hair brushed her cheek, the way she laughed at the cheesy dialogue, the way her knee kept brushing his like it had a mind of its own. He told himself it was nothing, just proximity, just coincidence. But when Kelly shifted closer, resting her head lightly against his shoulder, Sean forgot how breathing worked. His heart thudded in his chest, loud enough to drown out the movie. He stared at the screen, pretending to be invested in the plot, while every nerve in his body screamed at him to move, to do something. Kelly tilted her head, looking up at him. You okay? Sean swallowed hard. Fine. Kelly smiled softly. You seem tense. Sean forced a laugh. Just bad acting. Kelly chuckled, her breath warm against his neck. Sure. Sean turned his head, and suddenly they were close. Too close. Inches. He could see the flecks of gold in her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way her lips parted just slightly. For one dizzy second, Sean thought, this is it. He could lean in, close the gap, finally say what he'd been holding back for days, years. Really. And then his phone rang. The sound was jarring, slicing through the moment like a bad punchline. Sean jerked back, fumbling for his phone. Sorry, he muttered, cursing the universe under his breath. It was his mom, of course. Sean answered, trying to keep his voice steady. Hey, Mom. Hi, sweetheart, his mom chirped. Just checking in. How's my favorite son? Sean groaned. I'm your only son. Kelly bit her lip, clearly fighting laughter. His mom continued, oblivious. Are you having fun? Getting along with Kelly? Sean glanced at Kelly, who was smirking like she knew exactly what his mom was doing. Yeah, he said carefully. We're good. Wonderful, his mom said. Don't forget your clue. Sean sighed. Already got it. Good boy, she said cheerfully. Love you. Love you too, Sean muttered, hanging up. Kelly grinned. That was well-timed. Sean groaned. Don't. Kelly laughed, and Sean couldn't help but smile, even if he wanted to throw his phone out the window. When the movie ended, Kelly pulled the day's clue from her pocket, handing it over with a flourish. Ready. Sean unfolded it, bracing himself. On the 9th day of Christmas, think of what you risk when you care. Sean stared at the words, his chest tightening. What you risk when you care. Kelly tilted her head. Sounds personal. Sean nodded slowly. Yeah. Kelly smiled faintly. Any guesses? Sean swallowed hard. Your heart. Kelly's eyes softened, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt charged, heavy with something Sean wasn't sure he could hold back much longer. Later, when Kelly disappeared into the guest room, Sean sat on the couch, staring at the clue. What you risk when you care. He knew the answer. He just didn't know if he was brave enough to act on it. Chapter 10. The turning point. Sean woke up earlier than usual, not because of work, but because his mind wouldn't shut off. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying last night. The almost kiss, the clue, the way Kelly's eyes softened when he said your heart. He wasn't a guy who overanalyzed feelings. He liked facts, numbers, things that made sense. But nothing about this made sense. 12 days of clues, Kelly in his apartment, his mom orchestrating this like some holiday rom-com director. And now, Sean couldn't stop thinking about what he risked when he cared. Kelly was already in the kitchen when he walked out, humming softly as she made coffee. She looked up and smiled, and Sean felt his chest tighten like someone had pulled a string. Morning, she said. sliding a mug toward him. Morning, Sean replied, trying to sound normal. He failed. Kelly tilted her head. You okay? Sean nodded quickly. Fine. Kelly smiled faintly, like she didn't believe him, but let it go. She reached into her sweater pocket and pulled out the day's clue. Ready. Sean took the slip, his fingers brushing hers for a second longer than necessary. He unfolded it, reading the neat handwriting. On the 10th day of Christmas, think of what lasts when everything else fades. Sean stared at the words, his pulse thudding. What lasts when everything else fades? Kelly leaned against the counter. Sounds permanent. Sean nodded slowly. Yeah. Kelly smiled softly. Any guesses? Sean swallowed hard. Love. The word hung in the air like a spark. Kelly didn't laugh, didn't tease. She just looked at him, really looked at him, and for a moment Sean felt like the world had gone quiet. They spent the morning decorating cookies, Kelly's idea obviously. Sean tried to focus on frosting and sprinkles, but his mind kept circling back to the clue, to Kelly, to the way her laugh made everything feel lighter. At one point, Kelly smeared frosting on his nose, and Sean retaliated by dabbing her cheek. She laughed, eyes bright, and Sean thought, God, I'm in trouble. Later, as they sat on the couch with plates of cookies, Sean's phone buzzed. His mom again. He answered, bracing himself. Hi, sweetheart, she chirped. How's my favorite son? Sean groaned. Still your only son. His mom laughed. Are you having fun? Sean glanced at Kelly, who was licking frosting off her finger, and felt his throat tighten. Yeah, he said quietly. I am. Good, his mom said. Don't overthink it, Sean. Sometimes the best gifts aren't things. Sean froze. What does that mean? His mom chuckled. You'll figure it out. Love you. Love you too, Sean muttered, hanging up. Kelly raised an eyebrow. Cryptic much. Sean sighed. She's enjoying this way too much. Kelly grinned. So am I. Sean chuckled. But inside, something shifted. His mom's words echoed in his head. The best gifts aren't things. And suddenly, Sean knew what the clues had been pointing to all along. It wasn't a chair or a clock or a subscription. It was Kelly. That realization hit him like a snowball to the chest. Unexpected, cold, and exhilarating. He looked at her, laughing over a cookie, and thought, this is it. This is what lasts when everything else fades. And for the first time in years, Sean didn't feel like running from the complication. He felt like running toward it. Chapter 11, the big gesture. Sean had never been the grand gesture type. He wasn't the guy who showed up with roses or wrote love notes in perfect cursive. But tonight, he was determined to do something. Something that told Kelly what he couldn't seem to say out loud. He spent the morning pacing his apartment, brainstorming ideas like a man possessed. Flowers? Too cliché. Jewelry? Too much. A heartfelt speech? Risky. He wasn't exactly Shakespeare. Then his eyes landed on the Christmas tree they decorated together, glowing softly in the corner. And suddenly, he knew. By late afternoon, Sean was a whirlwind of activity. He borrowed extra lights from the building manager, picked up Kelly's favorite hot chocolate from the cafe down the street, and even managed to find a small box of ornaments shaped like snowflakes, the same kind Kelly had brought from her mom's collection. He worked quietly while Kelly was out running errands, stringing lights across the balcony, setting up candles, battery-operated, because he wasn't trying to burn the place down, and hanging the ornaments on the tree with care. When he was done, the apartment looked like something out of a holiday movie, warm, glowing, magical. Sean stood back, heart pounding. It wasn't perfect, but it was him. And maybe that was enough. Kelly walked in just as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting the city in shades of gold and blue. She froze in the doorway, eyes widening at the sight. Sean! Her voice was soft, almost breathless. You did all this? Sean shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly nervous. Yeah. Thought. You deserved a real Christmas. Kelly stepped inside, looking around like she'd stumbled into a dream. It's beautiful. Sean swallowed hard. You make it beautiful. Kelly turned to him, eyes shining, and for a second, Sean thought he might actually say it. Everything he'd been holding back. But then Kelly smiled, light and easy, and the moment slipped away like snow melting on his palm. She wandered to the tree, fingers brushing the ornaments. You remembered. Sean nodded. Of course. Kelly smiled softly, and Sean felt his chest tighten. He wanted to tell her. Wanted to say that the clues weren't about a gift you could wrap, that the present was her, that he'd been in love with her since they were kids and that 12 days wasn't nearly enough to show her what she meant to him. But instead, he handed her the day's clue. Kelly unfolded the slip of paper, reading aloud. On the 11th day of Christmas, think of what you give when you want forever. She looked up, eyes meeting his. Forever, she repeated softly. Sean nodded, his throat dry. Yeah. Kelly smiled faintly. Any guesses? Sean swallowed hard. Commitment. Love. Yourself. Kelly's eyes softened, and for a moment, the air between them felt electric, charged with something Sean couldn't ignore anymore. They spent the evening on the balcony, sipping hot chocolate under the glow of the lights Sean had strung. The city stretched out below them, glittering like a field of stars. Kelly leaned against the railing, her scarf tucked under her chin, and Sean thought, this is it. This is the moment. He turned to her, heart pounding. Kelly. She looked at him, eyes bright, lips curved in a soft smile. Yeah. Sean opened his mouth, ready to leap, ready to risk everything. But the words tangled in his throat, and all he managed was, thanks for being here. Kelly smiled gently. Always. Sean stared at her, frustration and longing swirling in his chest. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Tomorrow was the last clue. And if he didn't say it then, he wasn't sure he'd ever forgive himself. Chapter 12. Christmas morning. Sean barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kelly, laughing in the snow, humming in the kitchen, smiling under the balcony lights. He saw the clues, each one pointing to something bigger than a gift. And he saw himself, standing on the edge of something he'd wanted for years but never dared to reach for. By the time morning came, the apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of Christmas music from the radio Kelly had turned on before bed. Sean stood by the tree, staring at the twinkling lights, rehearsing words in his head like a man about to jump off a cliff. Just say it. Tell her. Before it's too late. Kelly appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a soft sweater, her hair tumbling over her shoulders like sunlight. She smiled when she saw him. Merry Christmas. Sean swallowed hard. Merry Christmas. She walked over, barefoot on the hardwood, and handed him a folded slip of paper. The last one. Final clue. Sean took it, his fingers brushing hers, and unfolded the note with hands that weren't as steady as he'd like. On the 12th day of Christmas, think of what love looks like. Sean stared at the words, his chest tightening. He looked up at Kelly, who was watching him with that soft, patient smile, the kind that made everything else fade. What love looks like, he repeated quietly. Kelly tilted her head. Any guesses? Sean nodded slowly. Yeah. His voice was rough, low. You. Kelly blinked, her breath catching. Me. Sean stepped closer, heart pounding like a drum. Kelly, I've been trying to figure this out for 12 days, but the truth is, I've known for years, since we were kids. You were always everything. And I never said it because I thought you were out of my league, and then life got busy, and I told myself I didn't have time for this. For us. He took a shaky breath, searching her eyes. But I do. I want to make time. For you. For us. If you'll let me. For a moment, Kelly just stared at him, her eyes bright, her lips parted like she was holding back 1,000 words. Then she laughed softly, a sound that was half joy, half disbelief, and shook her head. Sean Adams, she said, stepping closer until there was barely an inch between them. You really think I spent 12 days here because your mom asked nicely? Sean blinked. What? Kelly smiled, her voice warm and steady. I said yes because I wanted to, because I've been wondering for years if you felt the same way I did. Sean's breath caught. You? Kelly nodded, her smile widening. Yeah. Sean didn't think. He didn't plan. He just moved, closing the space between them, kissing her like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. Kelly kissed him back without hesitation, her hands sliding into his hair, and for a second, the world disappeared. No clues, no doubts, no deadlines, just her. When they finally broke apart, breathless and grinning, Kelly rested her forehead against his. So, she whispered, what does love look like? Sean smiled, his heart so full it almost hurt. Like this. They spent the rest of the morning curled up on the couch, the tree glowing beside them, snow falling softly outside. Sean called his parents on video, and his mom squealed so loudly he had to lower the volume. I knew it, she cried. Best Christmas ever. Sean groaned, but Kelly laughed, squeezing his hand under the blanket. And for the first time in years, Sean didn't feel like he was missing something. He felt complete, because the best gifts aren't things. They're people. And Kelly Benton was the best gift he'd ever been given. Epilogue. New Year's Eve. The city was alive with anticipation, lights glittering against the winter sky, and the hum of celebration drifting through the streets. Sean stood on his balcony, bundled in a sweater, watching snowflakes swirl like confetti. Behind him, Kelly was in the kitchen, humming softly as she poured champagne into 2 flutes. 5 minutes, she called, her voice carrying that familiar lilt that still made his chest tighten. Sean smiled, turning to watch her. A month ago, his apartment had felt like a sterile showroom. Now it was warm, alive, stocked with laughter, mismatched mugs, and a woman who had turned 12 days into forever. Kelly walked over, handing him a glass. To surviving Christmas, she teased. Sean grinned. And to everything after. They clinked glasses, the soft chime mingling with the distant sound of fireworks warming up for midnight. Kelly leaned against the railing beside him, her scarf brushing his arm, and Sean thought about how much had changed, and how much hadn't. He still loved the quiet, still hated small talk, still preferred order to chaos. But now, he loved her more than all of that combined. Resolutions? Kelly asked, sipping her champagne. Sean smirked. Make time for what matters. Kelly smiled, eyes bright. Good one. Sean turned to her, heart steady in a way it hadn't been in years. You, Kelly blinked, her breath catching. Me, Sean nodded. You're what matters. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The snow, the lights, the countdown echoing faintly from a nearby rooftop. Then Kelly set her glass down and kissed him, slow and certain, like a promise. When they broke apart, the city erupted in cheers. Midnight, a new year, a new beginning. Sean pulled her close, whispering against her hair, "Happy New Year, Kel." Kelly smiled, her voice soft and sure. "Happy forever, Sean." And as fireworks bloomed across the sky, Sean realized something. The best gifts don't end on Christmas. Sometimes they last a lifetime. The end.